Is it time to get excited about Anthony Gordon? So many of you will have seen the comments from an article in the Times, not the actual article itself, because the Times does that thing of putting their content behind a paywall so you can't see it. But many of you will have probably seen the quotes from Carlo Ancelotti and David Unsworth on Anthony Gordon recently. They're fascinating quotes. It's always intriguing to hear what Carlo Ancelotti has to say about football anyway. But David Unsworth's are equally insightful. And in the article, Ancelotti talks about the importance of academy players and highlights Gordon specifically. And because of Project Restart, Ancelotti says that players like Anthony Gordon are probably going to get more of an opportunity than they would have had if the season would have just finished and petered out in the way that it would have naturally. And just on Project Restart, I did a video a couple of weeks ago saying that I thought it was madness. I haven't really softened on that. In the idea now that clubs can make 5 substitutes during a game as opposed to 3, and the fact that us as fans can't go to the stadiums to watch the matches. Coronavirus to one side and the risk it poses, which I think is probably minimal to professional footballers. I think just ultimately I'm a bit of a purist on this, and I think that football games should be played in front of supporters. But anyway, there's enough been said about that, so I didn't want to dedicate another entire video to it. But on to Anthony Gordon, he's evidently a very good prospect for us. If you've seen him play, we saw him in the Europa League a couple of years back. We've seen him against West Ham this season. We saw him for a tiny bit against Chelsea. But if you go back and watch games that he's played for the reserves and the academy and whatever, he is a tremendously exciting footballer. Like Ancelotti mentions this, he's physical. He's got that quick burst of pace. He can beat a man. He's the kind of player that I think as fans, we've all got our own ideas, haven't we, about what kind of we like to see in a footballer. I do like big centre halves I like watching good defending, but I also pay my money to watch players who can take a man on, who've got pace, who are skillful, who are tricky. That is ultimately what we all pay our money to go and watch. And if you haven't seen a lot of Anthony Gordon, I suggest, after you've watched this video, just type Anthony Gordon into the search bar on YouTube and watch some footage of him. And he's got this, he's got this very natural ability and a trick up his sleeve, and he's very graceful on the ball as well. And he strikes me as the type of player that if I was a defender, I'd hate to play against him, because not only is he unpredictable, he's also incredibly talented, and he's quite smart as a footballer as well on the ball. And I just imagine he'd just be a real nightmare, a real handful to try and get a hold of in a game. And in the article, Ancelotti, as I mentioned before, talks about the importance of academy players. And he talks about the role that they have within a football club, and how, because they grow with the club, they're kind of ingrained, and that's really important. It's a term that Everton have used in their marketing in over the past in past seasons, the DNA of the club, but they very much represent that. They are kind of the DNA of the club, these academy players. And it's funny because, like, in the article, Ancelotti talks about some of the players that he kind of grew up with at AC Milan, and he talks about the likes of Van Basten and Rijkaard and Maldini, and it's like, shit, Carlo is definitely football royalty. But there's also some like really good quotes from David Unsworth, and I think the quotes from Unsworth are, I think, an indication of what a good coach he probably is. Okay, his little stint as manager of Everton Football Club didn't go well in terms of the results that he managed to yield in that time. But in this piece, he's talking about the work that he's doing with Anthony Gordon off the ball, and I think that's really important, because I think, maybe what sometimes separates players that are like really good and the players that are really good but don't quite meet their potential, one of the main things, aside from attitude and physicality and fitness and these kind of things, it's probably their ability to work out what they need to do off the ball. That's incredibly important as well. And Unsworth says in the article, he says, we're having to work with Anthony Gordon. Sometimes it's just a case of he's 5 yards out of position when the ball turns over, and it's little things like that. And Unsworth says, look, that might not seem like a lot to you. Why would we pick up on something so kind of a detail that's so minute? But ultimately 5 yards can be the difference between the opposition getting in on goal, scoring, you going behind, losing a game, and them not doing that. So it is important. And another thing that like fucking blew my mind about this is that Anthony Gordon was born in 2001. I remember 2001, February 2001. I remember it. That was when he was born. Getting fucking old. I mean, we all like to see lads come through the academy. If you're a Scouse Evertonian, then you take extra pride in the fact that he's a local lad, but also us that aren't from the city. You know, we also like to see lads that have come up through the academy, and we like to see them. We always like every football fan likes to see players progress from the academy into the first team, and if they're good, even better. So yeah, Ancelotti talks about Project Restart, and he says this is going to give Gordon a chance that he may not have had, but we're going to see injuries. We're going to see them pick up knocks because there's a lot of games crammed into a really short amount of time, which is another issue that I've got with this whole thing. But that's that. There's no point of, I suppose, moaning about things that are going to happen. I can't change it. But anyway, flipping it on its head, it gives the likes of Anthony Gordon a chance to maybe come on and show us what he can do. And also, as someone pointed out on GrandOldTeam, there'll be no fans in the stadium, so it takes a little layer of pressure off. Again, I'd love fans to be in the stadium. I'm not exactly savouring the prospect of watching Everton behind closed doors, not being able to go to Goodison. But equally, if that means that it's an opportunity to bed in players like Anthony Gordon in an environment where they've not got to react to the crowd, and not going to worry about the crowd, that element, that dynamic's been removed from the situation, then, well, I suppose it presents an opportunity for them, and hopefully it'll be a good one, and one that the likes of Anthony Gordon can take. And if Gordon comes in and makes an impact, it does make you wonder, what impact potentially in the medium term, but also I think maybe in the shorter term, for what's it mean for players like, I don't know, Alex Iwobi. It seems like the fan base is pretty split on Alex Iwobi. If you ask me, I'm erring on the side of I'm not sure. And what I mean by that is that's not me trying to like cop out from giving an opinion on Alex Iwobi. I'm genuinely not sure. There's things I like about him. I think he's exciting. We saw that the West Ham game earlier on in the season where he was terrific. Then we also get lots of sixes and fives out of Alex Iwobi, and consistently he's not good enough, and he does lack composure. And there's probably a few other first team players that are maybe looking over their shoulder at someone like Anthony Gordon and getting a little bit worried. But anyway, I don't want to get too carried away with Anthony Gordon. I am excited by him as an Evertonian, and I suppose if nothing else in future, it'll be kind of interesting to look back on this video if he turns out to be a mega superstar. But I'm not going to make any predictions, and I'm certainly not going to pile any more pressure onto the lad, because I assume when he breaks into the first team properly, he'll have enough pressure to deal with. But in the meantime, we're raffling off this Dominic Calvert-Lewin Everton shirt from the Carabao Cup game in 2018 against Rotherham. Everton won 3-1 that night, and Dominic Calvert-Lewin scored twice. The link's in the bio, and tickets are £2.50 a go. That would make a brilliant Father's Day present. So make sure you enter the competition. It closes next week. Give me your thoughts in the comment section below. As you know, I endeavour to respond to every single comment that I get. And once again, I know I've said this before, but I actually really do appreciate you watching GrandOldTeam, because there are a million other content creators out there doing content around Everton, and your time's valuable, and the fact that you allocate a little bit of it to us is a massive compliment, so thank you. I'm Adam Partington. You can find me on Instagram at @PartAdam, and I'll see you again next time on GrandOldTeam.